Hi, Dr. Lamb.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm just excited as I can be to be here today.
Me too. Looking forward to it.
A little dreary at Lake Norman this morning, but other than that, hopefully it will. I think it's going to be this way all day, but I think it's going to clear up before long. But
Surprisingly warm, actually. I haven't been
yeah,
outside today, but I thought yesterday was surprisingly warm.
yeah, it was. I started my day in Lake Lure and went to campus. And now it was cool there yesterday morning and raining. It was really raining there, not just by the time I got down to Cleveland County, it was just kind of drizzly, but it was really raining at Lake Lure. And it was 43 and raining, and the wind was blowing, so it was a little rough. But by the time I got here last night, it's shirt sleeve weather here, Lake Norman.
Wow. Well, I know it's hard to find places to be close to the lake, it seems these days, but I've always wanted to be able to be close to the lake. I grew up in Michigan, and so I'm
Yeah,
used to being around lakes. And so
yeah,
when I lived in Tennessee, I really missed it because we just had the rivers, and some dammed up rivers. But
yeah,
um,
yeah,
there's some nice lakes around here.
yeah. We grew up, or I did, at Lake Lure, and then when we were first married, we lived in Forest City. And my wife grew up at Forest Lake there, but we moved to Lake James and we lived there, and we've lived here right at 30 years. I mean, that's the lake right there
Wow.
in the backyard. I
Okay.
could never afford this now. I'm not sure I can afford it now, but it was a lot cheaper 30 years ago. This is one of those places that, I don't care what your situation is in retirement, you think about, if, when I retire fully, is this really, this is kind of an aspirational place for young people on the go. It's not really a place for old retired people, I guess, unless you're independently wealthy. But one of the acquaintances I have, who's a chiropractor, he lives out. Well, he just sold his house out in the peninsula, a couple communities over. But he's a chiropractor in Statesville, and he's done well over the years. But he's to the point where he wants to retire, at least, work part time. And as he said, so he has sold out. And but that's kind of the way it goes here. Is lake living has, to your point, has become so prohibitively expensive. You can do it for a while in your life, but after a while, even then, unless you just are willing to take the financial pressure and beating in retirement, it's fun. It really is fun when you're a young person, and you can get out and enjoy it. Um, um, but it's a premium. It's one of those kinds of things, unfortunately. But it is a lot of fun.
Okay.
Is everybody coming online here? I don't think Darius called and said he's got a medical medical emergency with a member of his church this morning. So I don't know if he said he would try to be with us some. So Lonnie's here with us. And Barry, I see it's our time. There's Leslie.
Hey, everybody.
Barry. Hey, everybody. We're not going to spend a lot of time this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
A quick review. And I have a final exam for you. It's it's a virtual one.
No, it's fine.
It's just I don't know if I can.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if I know how to do all this stuff that I'm supposed to be able to do. Sometimes I can get stuff to work. I have a video I want to play you. It's just a song, two guys singing a song. That's all. That's the final exam. But there's a lesson in there, I think. So I'm gonna play it here just in a minute. But I wanted to review our weekly assignment. And again, thank you for joining us this morning. So let me share my screen, and we're gonna jump right in. I want this to be a short session today.
Short session.
Here we go. And so let me pull this one up. Look at our weekly schedule. Review assignment, readings, discussion boards. So that's where we are today. So we have finished out the course. You need to fill out your course evaluation, give me feedback on what you did and didn't do. I have a couple of things in that notion that we'll talk about. So I want to go back and pick up our discussion board threads. The first one this morning, I hope Lonnie is with us where she can speak. I like this one from Lonnie in terms of the hedgehog. And she talked about applying the hedgehog to public schools. And she's talked about they're simply looking for growth. Just looking to be average, not looking to be great, just looking for growth, not looking for proficiency, to move up. So Lonnie, can you speak or can you hear us this morning?
I can hear you, yes.
So expand on your idea here, that schools simply only, strive for growth or to be average or to be confident and don't strive to be great. They don't identify what their hedgehog is. So talk to us about that.
Well, I've just noticed that schools are just, that they're passing students along. There's not a whole lot of concern about, whether kids are making it or kids are going to be successful in life. I heard this term this week, in fact, about hall walkers.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh my gosh, we have hall walkers at my school. And it's just administration, being afraid of parents, and the students just aren't afraid of anybody. And so they just do what they want to do and they get away with it. And it makes it hard for teachers because the teachers are getting blamed, or you need to have this student in class, or you need to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I've got 25 other kids in the classroom that I'm supposed to be focused on, but you want me to focus on the students that really don't care about being there. So I just really feel that it's stemming back somewhere. When I did my root cause analysis, where is this stemming from? Why is this happening? And I see a lot of disvalue in education, and parents who don't value the education that their students are getting, so they're not involved, they aren't in their schools. And then why is that happening? Because their life is difficult, so they don't have time to necessarily be involved in schools. And so it's just a lot of revolving door of hard life, hard not life, and parents just maybe dropping the ball, so to speak, because their life is just so hard. So I really wanted to maybe dive into that for my dissertation, to think about what could we do as school systems and as districts in order for our schools to just not want to pass students along, or just see, can we get 2 or 3 more students to get a 500 on the EOGs this year? What can we do to better the lives of our students so that they will value education? They will go home and talk about school and what happened at school, and parents will go to night school and parents will come to meetings, and the school overall can be more successful because teachers are able to teach in classrooms and you have quality teachers. That was another thing that I was thinking about and working on with this, is having quality teachers in the building, because just teachers are just a lot of times babysitters and bodies that they are, getting off, quote unquote, getting out of a substitute list and just putting them in the classrooms to babysit. And so students are on their phones and they're not, getting education. And it's just that stemming from teachers just not retaining in schools or staying in schools. And I feel like programs to teach teachers early on, and not put teachers in debt and not make teachers want to quit, would be a big help to trying to solve some of these problems. So that's just kind of a little bit of what I was discussing in my topic.
Well, thank you. I'll stop my share. I want to hit a couple of points. while we're here today. First thing that Lona said is parents, how much do they value education? They value daycare, the daycare aspect of education. They really value that a lot. Take that away from them, your kids can't come to school because of COVID, right? Change their, go down crazy rabbit holes. COVID's not real. Take my kid, make it, come get my kid and take you to school. I mean, to the point where we had a national crisis with people just not believing objective truth simply because I don't care. I can't believe that because if I do, then I have to accept responsibility for my own kids and I have to provide my own daycare for them, and they're terrible. It's not that, it's not that not only do I need to go to work, well, them, they didn't have to go to work. I still don't want to keep them because my kids are terrible, kind of thing. But what we found is that people's personal needs will change what they will advocate it as objective truth. That may be the most shocking thing to me that came out of COVID is that people would absolutely change political parties, support something completely abhorrent and different from than what they believed their whole life, simply so that they'll make people go back and open up schools. And then we had people on one side who were supposedly on that side who screamed and yelled that kids don't get COVID that bad. Why are schools closed? This is crazy. When it was closing schools was never about kids. It was about trying to keep teachers alive. That's not hard, folks. That's not a philosophical discussion. Public schools closed because we're trying to keep teachers alive. It wasn't about kids. Kids don't get it. Don't bother them that much. It ain't about kids. It's about the adults. If you don't have adults, school system falls apart. Hence what's going on today. As we're seeing is if you don't have adults, school systems don't work. Imagine that. But we still have stupid people in our society who unfortunately have a voice. They're on TV who are still claiming that we didn't have to close schools during COVID. Of course we did. We weren't trying to keep kids alive. Again, how many times does this have to be explained? We were trying to keep the adults alive. Without the adults, the school system fails. I learned that lesson, unfortunately, 33 years ago. But I won't reiterate that story again. But I learned that if you don't have teachers, you don't have school. The hard way. When I walked into a new job with 37 vacancies and about 2 weeks till school started, you can't have school. All you can do is babysit if you don't have teachers. And that goes into the point that Lonnie was talking about there. Teachers aren't cost effective in terms of their ability for 5 years when you get them. First 2 years, you're just hoping they can find the building sober and clean clothes every day. Seriously, that's all you expect the first 2 years. Just find the building every day, sober, clean clothes. And you've met the standard. That is true. I can't make that up, folks. Not that smart. That's all you expect out of BTs the first 2 years. That's all you expect. And half of them can't do that. If they come sober, then they've got on the same clothes as the day before because they got 17 bar stamps on their hand. All you got to do, show up on time, sober, clean clothes. Can't even do that. But that's really all we expect of BTs the first 2 years, beginning teachers. See it. And then after that, if they can make it through that, then we actually start working with them to actually try to teach them something. So it takes about 5 years. But as Lonnie, in her thesis there, what she was talking about is because of turnover, we never get them to the 5 years where they're any good. We're always in that first, that what we call neophytes. First 4 years that you teach, we actually have a term for that. I wrote about it extensively a long time ago about neophytes, years 1 through 4. And so therein lies our problem in education is schools, because we don't have enough people to run them now. We can't get quality people or any people or enough people. We have no hedgehog. We don't try to be great in anything. We just try to get by. Now, again, part of that is due to parents that their value A lot of parents, a majority of parents in public education the only thing they value is the daycare aspect. That's it. They don't want their kids taught anything because kids might question their truth. But everybody's all into their own personal truth now, rather than objective truth and their political truth. And objective truth comes in a distant third. It's not interval. When we talk about data, there's measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode. Then you have measures of variation, variance, range, standard deviation. And then you have levels of measurement, interval, ordinal, nominal, ratio. One of the things that you have to understand is that's how we classify or order data. And you have to understand that there's differences in that, and that you can tell the story your way by which one of those that you pick. So when I talk about education being a distant second to daycare as the chief reason, the parents want public education, it's not like when we say 1 and 2, that assumes that there's an equal interval and they're close together. It's not. Second, getting an education is a distant second, and we need to talk about the ratio or the interval between those. It's not just the order 1, 2. I've told you the story before about Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. Back in their heyday on golf, every week it would be, will Phil pass Tiger this week? They're 1 and 2. Phil could never pass Tiger. He was a million points behind. Tiger didn't play for 3 years and was still ahead of Phil. But that didn't suit the narrative, so they kept saying, well, Tiger's 1 and Phil's 2. That implied that they were close together, or that there was an equal distance between first, second, third, fourth, fifth places. It wasn't. If we did the intervals, Tiger had 3 million points and Phil had 6. Not 6 million, 6 points. That's, on a scale of 6 million, Tiger had 6 million, had 3 million, and Phil had 6 points. The gap between 1 and 2 was years apart. But we don't tell that part because it doesn't fit our narrative. You have to be careful about that. And so my point in this morning is daycare 1, education 2, but they're not close at all. If they were close at all, we wouldn't keep electing politicians who were trying their best to kill public education by not paying teachers, by making terrible working condition choices, by making terrible benefit choices, salary structure choices, all these different things. It's not unintentional that we are trying to kill public education. We're driving the traffic to privates and charters where their friends and donors get the money. It's all about the money. So don't mistake that if that people actually that it's in the same conversation as the need for daycare. It is not. Now, a friend of mine who worked for DPI many years ago told me that, and I told him that he was, as a non-educator, he's a tech guy, enterprise architect, hardware guy. We went to undergraduate school together, but when he retired from the military, he did 10 years with DPI. And he told me that that's what drives everything here. I mean, he worked directly for the state superintendent, was in her office. Daycare by a long shot. I told him he's crazy. He ended up being right. That was 20 years ago. He ended up being right, unfortunately. He was exactly right. When push came to shove, daycare was all that really mattered. And so, to Lonnie's point, what do you do in an organization that just looks at growth and doesn't want to be great? It's just about daycare, having a place just to get by. What do you do in organizations? Does that mean you don't strive to be great? So that's kind of the big question this morning on Collins, on Hedgehog, is the whole notion of Hedgehog is striving to be great. Now, So I guess the issue is if you work in an organization like public school, that the overarching philosophy is daycare. Is it wrong for you or unreasonable for you to expect greatness from you, yourself, and your teachers if you're the leader? Is that unreasonable? No, it's not unreasonable. You can still be successful. There's plenty of schools that are knocking it out on growth and proficiency. Plenty of them. Plenty of them. But it has to be a conscious decision of the leader. And you have to value teachers more than, well, if they survive the first couple of years, then we'll work with them. No, that kids deserve great teachers every day from the first day. Got to do that professional development, professional growth. You got to grow them into the people you want them to be. But that's the same in any organization. You can choose to be great, but you got to grow your employees into what they need to be. Matt, you got a question or comment?
Yeah, I think you made a good point there, Dr. Lamb, that, if this kind of goes to the idea around facing the brutal facts, is once you
Exactly.
recognize that you're in an environment that does not want to be great, and they're okay with just being good, is you only can control your own mindset, and you can only control the things within your sphere of influence, and make the decision that although I might not be in a great school, I'm going to have a great classroom, or I'm going to be a great teacher, or I'm going to be great in the position in which I'm in. And so it makes me think about the story within Collins around the man who was was a prisoner of war, and how even within the difficult decisions, it never changed his vision, never changed what he knew, as far as keeping faith, and that when circumstances change, he will continue to even while within that context, do the greatest person in the context in which he was at that time. So it can feel like sometimes when you get around other people, they'll try to bring you down in those things and make you think that there's too many barriers, there's nothing we can do. That's not true. So I think that was a good I like what Loney had to say about that, because I think that is just the reality of no matter what context we work in, we're always going to have people that try to help us just to see all the barriers and all the things that we can't do, and we have to be that person that says, no, actually we can, and here are the things that we can do. So I just add to that discussion. But
Leslie, thank you, Matt. That's exactly right. See, I like, and this is what Lonnie did with hers, and Matt just voiced it. They put these two together. Confronting the brutal flat facts and Hedgehog is confronting the brutal facts for public education is nobody expects you to be great or wants you to be great, but you can still decide to be great. That's up to you, no matter what your role is. Leslie, you got something for us?
Yeah, I was just going to say two things. Well, one, it was just kind of an aside that unfortunately, I feel like even at college, some parents think of college as daycare.
Yes.
And that is unfortunate too. It just shows, going back to what you just said about what people's motivation is. But I just wanted to follow up on what Matt just said and just say, I know I get frustrated in my organization, and I know my staff does, when we see things that are not going so well, and there's, sometimes we feel like there just is a dumpster fire in one area or another. And as Matt said, I just try to continue to tell my folks, look, we can only control what we can provide our students. We can only control what we do, but we're going to do it to the best of our ability. And that's what we try to strive for every day. It is difficult though, because you are trying to do that and you care and you have so much passion for the place that you work at and the people that you're serving. And it can become frustrating because you don't often understand why others can't get that.
Yeah. 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 And it circles back to when you did Facing the Brutal Facts about the differences in the two colleges, the dichotomy that you shared with us on that. Go ahead and this dovetails right into that. Go right ahead on that one, Leslie. Leslie wrote a wonderful dichotomy of two places where she's worked, how one worked and how another one worked, on confronting the brutal facts.
Sure. So I gave two examples. So one was when I worked, first started off in my career at a small private Catholic school in Philadelphia, and they had just made the decision a year prior before I got there to go co-ed. They were founded as an all-female school. And ultimately, after listening to a number of stakeholders, they said, look, this isn't sustainable. We're not going to continue to be in the business of education if we don't have students. And so they were able to listen to people, get feedback, and go about making that decision in the right intentional way. And they were able to grow their enrollment. And I continue to watch their progress, and they're still thriving in a time when small privates are closing, especially in that area in Philadelphia. And so I think that's a great example of an organization that said, listen, we need to listen to our people and we've got to make some changes if we're going to stay relative. And then I gave an opposite example of when I worked at Averett, and they had an opportunity presented to them where they could have grown a program. So they are known for their aviation program. But they did not want to add on a maintenance portion of that, honestly, because it seemed like that was more of a community college piece. It was more technical, and they weren't listening to their stakeholders. They weren't listening to the faculty. They weren't listening to the students, but they, more importantly, weren't listening to what the consumers needed. And they ended not doing it. And ultimately, I think if they would have listened to that and would have taken that advice, they would have been able to grow that program enormously. And I think that's a great example of an organization that just didn't want to see outside of the box, just wanted to pigeonhole themselves, that we're not a technical school, we're a college of liberal arts, and not see the possibilities that could have come from that.
Absolutely. Excellent. 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 Now, Everett's in Virginia, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure I've got the right place here. I have senior moments a lot anymore. Part of it, part of what you've got to understand, there's some context here too. A lot of times in private colleges, we look to what are other people doing or not doing as reasons why we do or don't do something, instead of looking internally, what do we need? And one of the mistakes that sometimes private colleges make is to look to public institutions. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not a public institution. There in North Carolina and Virginia are very similar in how they set up their state college system of public colleges and community colleges. There's no rational reason why four-year colleges don't offer vocational or technical or what we used to call occupational courses, other than we have another division that does that we're paying for it over there. There's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just we have another division that does that. But sometimes private schools don't understand the motivation of why it's this way. And they say, well, we don't do that because we're a four-year school. Look at the other four-year schools. They don't do it. It has nothing to do with that. They have another division within the same organization that does it. You don't. Why aren't you doing that? That's the lesson to be learned. They learned the wrong lesson from that.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The same thing has happened to several colleges in North Carolina and have gone out of business. There's nothing wrong with offering vocational courses as a 4-year college. There's no rules against that. No rules against that. And you got to, how do you expect to spread your vision through your mission if you don't have anybody to spread it to, if nobody shows up every day? Remember, your vision is your own. Your mission is dependent upon the client system, them showing up and paying. Your mission is not your own. Your vision is what you want to do. But unfortunately, North Carolina has lost a lot of small colleges because they too, oh, that's beneath us, or we don't, 4-year colleges don't do that. You do what you have to do. I mean, yes, we want Gardner-Webb to spread an undergraduate liberal arts education, but the bigger idea is to spread Christianity. That's the vision. Can't do that if you got everybody spread it too. So you hustle, you find classes, you do whatever you have to do to get people in the door, because that's your job. You got to keep your number one goal as a leader in any organization is keep the organization alive. That's number one. Keep the organization alive. Can't do any good if you go out of business. Can't ever forget that. That's your goal. That's your job every day when you're in leadership. When you get up today, is we got to keep it. It's got to stay in business another day, and we'll try to get better. It's amazing to me how many people don't understand that and get caught up in we don't do this and we don't do that. Now, the world's worst is churches. They'd rather die than change. Churches had rather die than change. I can't tell you the number of dissertations and the number of work that I'm working on with people in churches. And, I could save us all some time and just tell you, they're not going to do it. I don't care what you recommend. They're not going to do it. If they would do it, they would have already done it. They didn't need somebody to tell them what to do. They chose not to. This is what we do. Everything has a time. It passes. Buggy whips. It has, their time has come and gone. If you don't adapt to something else, then your time goes, comes and goes like everything else. And they're perfectly fine with that. They claim they're not, but they really are. But they really are. There's not going to be divine intervention. There is no miracle coming. As my mother would say, you better not get your tail in the crack. There's no help coming. It's up to you. That's what adulthood is. That's what adulthood is. It's up to you. And so confronting the brutal facts is a lot of people would rather lose with their own people than win with somebody from outside. Now, a lot of these lessons dovetail together. That's the important part here, is they dovetail together. And you can't forget that you can't just say and put everything in silos. I love the notion that Barry talked about in his final there is you got to put this stuff in practice. You got to be a practitioner. Barry, I want you to talk about that one this morning too. I love what he had to say. You're a leadership practitioner. Leadership's not just a theoretical thing you read about. You have to actually go out and practice it. You have to actually do what you read that you should have done or that you've learned. You actually have to practice leadership. Leadership is not a passive thing. Barry, jump right in there.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. So during the first on our in-person cohort, Dr. Lamb said he began introducing the theorist, and he spoke about us being leadership practitioners. And when he said that, it struck me because we hear the term leadership, there's leadership in school, there's leadership in the government, leadership in church. So it's become kind of generic. And I think when he made that statement, when he made that statement, for me, the idea of leadership became more significant and the responsibility of it. And so after that class, I looked up the word practitioner just to see what it means, because, there are a lot of different meanings. But one of the words for practitioner, or one of the definitions, is a specialist. And so for me, Well, let me backtrack. For me, getting this doctorate degree, it's important that I'm not doing it just so somebody can call me doctor. It's important for me that I'm doing it so that there's purpose attached to it. And so I've been just really tussling with the whole idea of making sure that I absorb everything I need to do, not so I have amassed so much knowledge, but so that I can apply it and so that I can be worthy, as it were, to be considered a leadership specialist. Because at the end of this whole course, or the end of the whole program, that's really the objective. It's not really to tote the title of doctor, to say, look what I've done. I don't know about you guys, but I'll be 48 in a couple of weeks, so I'm past the age of trying to prove myself. That's a waste of a
You'll be how old?
I'll be 48.
48. Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. 48. So that's 2 years away from 50. So, at this stage, if I need a degree to prove myself, I'm kind of messed up, I would say. So I think for me, hearing him say leadership practitioner just helped me to put things in perspective, that really this is not about toting a title or toting your self-importance, but it's really about making sure that you can make a difference, and that what you learn, the information and the skill set, is not just so that it becomes verbiage, but so that it can become a practical way of approaching leadership to affect change in whatever sphere of influence you have.
Excellent. Now, full disclosure, I'm married to a curriculum instruction specialist. I want to get that out there again, as I've told you before. I'm married to one of them EDCI ladies that I blaspheme all the time. I'm married to one of them, soon be 40 years. But I'm asked all the time. I get asked this question all the time. In the discipline of education, there are two major tracks. There's the curriculum people, and then there's the leadership people. And I'm asked all the time, what is the difference between the curriculum people and the leadership people? It's very simple. The curriculum people get together and have a meeting all the time. They think that's the work of the organization. The leadership people, they only meet briefly to organize and then go and do the work. Let me say that again. They only meet briefly and sporadically just to organize and then go do the work. They understand that leadership is about going and doing the work. It's not about having a meeting. It's not about just sitting and sharing ideas and showing how smart you are. It's about actually going and practicing doing the work. Nothing wrong with the EDCI ladies. Love them to death. Been married to one for 40 years. This is our 43rd, second or third Christmas. We're big on Christmas. You can see my Christmas display behind me. Let's see over here. On this one, there's my carolers. I've been collecting those for 40 years. There's my Claire. That's that one. You see my Santa's mailbox. Let's see. That's my Santas from around the world are up there. Oh, you don't need more of those. The tree there to the door. This is like a museum. This is a Christmas museum we live at. This is the deal. But again, I show you this to say, now my wife's the curriculum person. She has all these ideas for all these beautiful displays, but they would never happen. I'm the operational person. I'm the leadership person. And so I'm the one that goes and gets them and drags all this stuff out and sets it all up. That's the way this goes. The leadership people do the work. The curriculum people, they have ideas and they tell us what to think or what we should be doing, but then they fall short of doing that. I don't have a problem with that. We need those people. You're not training to be a curriculum person. You're training to be an operational person, a leadership person who actually goes and practices and does things, who makes things happen and gets things done. Don't just sit and come up with great ideas. Johnny Carson had great, I'll use somebody more current. Jimmy Kimmel has great writers, but he's the one that goes out and delivers the show. That it's kind of like that thing. And so I don't mean that you shouldn't be thoughtful and intentional and be learned, but you got to go and practice it, folks. You're not just doing it so that you can sit around a conference table and talk about it. You have to be able to go and practice.
Dr. Lamb, you'll appreciate this. I was just in Nashville and went to a songwriters night.
Yeah.
And you know, lots of people going around singing songs that are there was a lot of country music actually at this particular show, but the songs that as the songwriters were singing it didn't sound anything like what the artists themselves have made happen. Because if they just sat like, you know, the way that they were played by songwriters, not much would have happened with those songs. It was really the artist that took it and made it what it was. But
Yeah.
the two go together, like you said. You don't have one without the other. We need those people with the ideas that can construct it and put it together, and then we need the people that can kind of move it forward
And deliver it.
and make it happen.
That is correct. And you have to understand that that's your role. Yes, you must be intentional and thoughtful, and you can be on that end of it. But it never happens if you don't go out and do it. If you don't go out and practice it, it doesn't get done. And that's where so many leaders fall short. Is they know the theory, they've read all the people, they've done all the things, but then they won't confront the brutal facts. They don't want to be they don't want to be involved in conflict. And so they delude themselves that it's happening. They don't go and do formative observation, fidelity checks to make sure things are happening as intended. They don't do any of that stuff. You know, and then they're surprised when things never change. Barry, you've got your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. So the conversation about curriculum and the previous conversation about the school system and how it's really being set up to fail. I'm just curious to know, as a former educator, I'm curious to know, how do you think that the No Child Left Behind Act impacted education?
You got a day? I'll talk to you all the way through it. I've got one of my LS ladies. We're doing a dissertation in that right now, and I've got to do a third edit today or tonight sometime on hers. Elizabeth is at Cliffside Elementary in Rutherford County, a little Title I school in a little town that time passed by. When I was a kid, Cliffside had the last community store for the mill system. They were owned by Cone Mills out of Greensboro. Cliffside was a Cone Mills town and was very prosperous, had several mills, big mills. The last denim plant, the last textile mill built in Rutherford County in 70. When did Andrea come to school with us? Right at the end, 73, 72, 73, 1972. The last mill opened in Rutherford County was Cone Mills, had a denim plant. They made denim for Levi. But Cliffside was a thriving place. All the mills closed and left, even the church, the big beautiful God, church is now closed and the windows are boarded up, keep kids from out of it, knocking it out. It's just it is heartbreaking. It's just out the back door of Gardner Webb. You just head out to Cliffside. It's just heartbreaking, that little town over there, where their little elementary school's got like 300 kids. They're Title I and poor. Elizabeth is over there now. And what we're finding is No Child Left Behind made things worse. It was intended. Remember, which political party and who put in No Child Left Behind? It wasn't the people who were interested in education for poor kids. It was the people who were interested in punishing them, pulling money away and driving the traffic to privates and charters where their friends and donors and themselves could become enriched and make money. No Child Left Behind has only made things much worse, much worse. But that was its intent. It was not intended to make things better. Nobody ever said that. It was intended to be punitive. And it's even worse today than it was. So I could spend a day on talking to you about that. But, you know, ride the Gardner Webb and we'll go out the back door over to Cliffside. And I'll show you what No Child Left Behind is. You know, I'll show you what NAFTA does when we offshore all the jobs, and then when we get a political group in who is trying to close, you know, I'll show you what happens. It takes us 14 or 15 minutes to ride over there from the backside of campus. And you'll get to meet Elizabeth. She's a good young woman, but I mean, she couldn't win over there if she had a gun. Sorry, it's not set up to succeed. The economy of what happened to that community, the economy and what No Child Left Behind has done to the school, it's not a winner. But now she can win every day at that school and grow those kids and do what they can do over there. And so that's what I have her focus on is winning every day at your local level. Did you do the right thing for kids and teachers? And did you do a little bit better today than you did yesterday? But Cliffside's an example of what we expected schools to become, or what we've made schools become. But that was our intent. It didn't happen, accidentally or incidentally. It was very intentional. We're driving all the money. Education is the biggest part of our economy now. That now you people say, oh no, it's the internet and communication. No, I'm talking about where traditional part of the economy, where people have actual jobs, they show up and work. It's the biggest thing. Think about how big education is. Colleges, universities, K-12, private. It's the biggest thing in the country. It's always about getting a handle on the money. It's always about getting a handle on the money. I mean, you can enrich yourself beyond your wildest dreams in public education or in private if you can get, especially public, if you can get the money from, and it comes every month. Matt, you got your hand up.
Yeah, Barry, I think one thing is it killed innovation. When I talked to teachers who taught way before that, it was kind of coming along when I first started teaching. But like my mother-in-law, she taught for a very long time, and my mom and some of her friends and things like that, and they stopped being able to create things. They couldn't do lessons around silly things like doing, having kids make applesauce, or, all these kinds of things around certain kinds of holidays, or things that enrich the environment. It took all of that and said, no, you have to do it this way. Right. And then the other point I'll say too, is I think that there's a thought, and being in special education, I remember when I first started teaching, one principal of mine who retired after that, but he said to me early on, he said, he said, special education is going to kind of really, I don't know if he said kill or anything like that, but it's going to greatly impact how we educate all children, in a sense that now everybody's got a specialized plan, right? Everybody needs an IEP. And
that's what MTSS has done now.
That's exactly right. And that has burdened teachers beyond belief, in that instead of creating a context that inspires children to want to learn things like that, is they're so focused on, they have to customize everything to every child. And so now we rely on a lot of instructional technology to do that, because we can't possibly do that on our own. No. But I do think NCLB ultimately really took away the innovation for educators' ability to be innovative, and also kind of killed people's passion for what education could be in many ways, and feeling like you had to kind of follow very specific guidelines. And sort of, when we think about the Hertzberg model, I think a lot of reason why people left is that they, the job itself
completely
changed. And that's why people aren't motivated to go into it either, is it takes there's not a lot of ability to be really creative sometimes.
That's one of the reasons I walked away from it.
Yeah, well, my career was half with it and half without it. But in '83, the basic ed plan was passed, and said every child gets a basic education. And some smart guy stood up in the back and said, wait a minute, what is a basic education? We took 6 years from '83 to '89, and we wrote a standard course of study, big white thick notebooks, seriously about this thick, 12-inch binders, for every course, for every grade level. And then some smart guy in '89 in the back stood and said, how we know they're going to get that? Then we started the accountability program, which led to No Child Left Behind and all those things. And so you're exactly right. When I was a middle school principal in Rutherford at New Hope in 1980, let me see what year it was, 87 or 88. We did a whole thematic unit across the school, 6th through 8th grade middle school. We had about, how many kids we have? I don't know, 800 maybe. Trying to remember, had a lot. But we did a thematic unit on Ramses. I don't know if you remember when the Ramses exhibit came to Charlotte. That was how many? So let's say if that was 87, how many years ago was that? 36 years ago. Probably not too many of you remember that, or you might have heard about it. But the Ramses traveling exhibit came to the Mint Museum in Charlotte. And so we did a whole thematic unit across the entire school on Ramses. We did the math part, the science part, and then the culminating event was this young buses out of Asheville came in tour buses, and we took every kid, we took the whole crowd to the Mint Museum to see the Ramses exhibit. Do you think you could do that after No Child Left Behind in '91? That would not be a thing anymore. That would not even be a thing. It changed the entire nature and of what we did in the school business. And now MTSS, for those of you who don't know, is multi-tiered system of support. Basically, it's saying every child has to have an IEP or a PEP, personal education plan, like their exceptional children. It's an intervention plan for every child. We've made it, but we did this not because we thought it would be better. We did this to drive everybody out of the business. This is very intentional. And so now we have privates and charters that don't do any of this. Don't do any of it. The best teachers are going over there. Everybody, the parents are going, the money's going, it's nothing new. Privates now do what we did 40 years ago. They've not, and they don't, many of them don't even use very good technology or any technology. They just don't do stupid things. They just don't shoot themselves in the foot.
And the sad piece is these unprepared children are being funneled into society as adults.
That is correct. Well, I told you the story of, my nephew, his dad, because of his political truth, had to send him to the local political charter school. And when he went to Carolina, he couldn't compete. And he's not, I'm hopeful that he will come out of it because he's a smart kid, but he had no notion of how to compete. None at all. In a system where competition, where it's just warehousing. It's just warehousing. So, education is not broken. It's exactly what we want it to be. We want it to be private, and we want it to be where we make money off of it. And so it is where it needs to be. But No Child Left Behind just simply, completely changed the nature of the business. It was a lot of fun being in the school and being principal before that. It was a lot of fun. After that, not so much. It's still fun in a different way, but I think kids learned more. But the focus wasn't on individual kids. The focus was kids must conform to this and be able to operate in society, rather than, it put the cart before the horse is what it did. Where unfortunately that now we have a bunch of kids that can't work a public job, that can't work with others, that can't communicate, can't share. It's all about them all day, every day. And that's why you see all the craziness of social media now, and all this TikTok and YouTube culture kind of thing.
So essentially what you're saying is that it perpetuated this whole entitlement syndrome that we see so much.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It made the focus on them, and that's what our social media reflects, an entitlement syndrome. It's exactly, but we didn't get this by accident. We created this. We absolutely created this. Okay. All right. So the last of the all-star stuff that I picked for today, let me share my screen, is Brenda. I really like what she summarized here. So Brenda, this is your summary of that I have posted on my screen. Can you see it? Did I lose Brenda? Brenda, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Lamb. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning. So
Thank you.
I have on here, you've summarized what you've learned or what you think is important from this semester. So you want to go through and talk to us about this?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lamb, and to my colleagues. I once again want to appreciate the interactions that we've had. I want to say that it's been very insightful for me to be able to pick critical issues that I'm currently working on to be able to become a good leader, not just developing myself as a leader, but also impacting the society back at home in the education system and even as a person. So I'll quickly go to what Dr. Lamb has picked on the issues that I've learned in terms of leadership. Number one, I've talked about listening and empathy. And we discussed this in detail when we were handling the communication, effective communication. I've learned that as a leader, I'm supposed to learn to listen keenly and be able to understand and help to solve the solutions that are brought at hand, and also able to listen to the people that I work with, because as Dr. Lamb keeps on telling us that we cannot be able to know everything as leaders. And so solutions also lie with the followers that we lead. So during this semester, I've been able to learn to be a good listener, a keen listener in everything that I do in terms of improving my communication and even my leadership skills. And of course, strategic thinking. My area is basically strategic management, and as a strategist, I was reading about good to great, and probably Dr. Lamp, you will guide me on this. Collins doesn't advise us to strategize, but for me, I think everything falls under strategy, because you cannot implement a program or implement anything without strategy. To him, he was talking about simplicity, but for me, I would want to be a strategic thinker, because you have to plan ahead. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So in this course, I've learned to be able to set goals and come up with a strategy and implement the strategy. And also, as a good leader, I'm supposed to aspire to have the ability to inspire my followers, the teams that I work with. I've really enjoyed the group work that we've been doing together, that is with Leslie, with Lonnie, and with Gary as a team. We've been able to interact closely, learn from one another, and everyone who comes on board will bring their ideas, will be able to interrogate the ideas, discuss, and then come up with our presentation, just fine-tune our presentation. And so for me, I'm picking up points in terms of being able to aspire as a leader. And then also in terms of decision making, and maybe if you could just follow up on what I had written, at times I would overanalyze issues as a leader. Probably there is an issue that I'm supposed to quickly make a decision on, and I'm a little bit hesitant in making that decision, because I'm like, if I make this decision, probably it is a wrong decision. But I just want to follow up on what Parker said in the writing, that as a leader, you fail, but when you fail, you will pick up the broken pieces and learn from the failure that you had to improve on the processes. And also, when we were doing the root cause analysis, I'm now learning that I'm supposed to ask the whys, why? And when I do that, I'll be able to find a solution to that. Also, in terms of conflict management, I've been able to learn a lot in terms of resolving conflicts as a leader, finding a win-win situation, being able to listen, and it all boils down to effective communication. And then I'm looking at being self-aware of myself, and there are basically different theories that talk about self-awareness that I've been able to link myself to. And lastly, the integrity part of it. because as a leader, my integrity should not be questionable. I should learn to do the right thing every time, whether people are watching me or not. And by so doing, I will set an example to the rest of the employees, basically at my workplace and even outside my workplace, in the family setting and in the society. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think Brenda has done an excellent job summarizing the process that we've gone through this semester. At this time, I want to open up the floor for anybody. You can kind of look at the list here. Is there anything else that you took from this course? Barry's talked about being a practitioner. He took that you know that he needed to be very intentional. Leslie's got her hand raised. Go ahead, Leslie.
I think a couple of things. I think for me, you know, being that practitioner, I think that a lot of these theories and a lot of things that we've talked about in class, a lot of us have lived or live every day in the work that we do. And so being able to read about it and put a conceptual theory to what we're doing, I think just put more intention in the work that we do. For me, something that I've just continued to has been important to me as a leader, but as I go through this course and we've been reading and watching videos, I just, for me, a huge takeaway, but just reinforces my work as a leader, is the importance of human capital and how you take care of your, and how the most important people and the most important thing in the organization is your people. And that's been a huge takeaway for me, because I think about when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs or Herzberg's theory of motivation, you know, what do people need to be successful? What do people need to be come to work every day and want to provide that good to great? And so that is something that's really important to me and has always been important to me, but it is truly, I mean, really, every day I think about it and the work that I do and the people that I serve and the people that aren't being served.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Barry and Matt have both talked about the theorists. That it validates them and what they're thinking and what they're doing. And Leslie, that's exactly what Leslie's talking about. Exactly. It validates you and it validates your notion as you grow in your leadership role, that the people that work with you are the most important part on the organizational piece. And then for the organization, the people that you serve is the most important piece. It keeps your focus on the people. That's what organizations are. We're not making widgets, folks. You know, this is not a factory job. That's management. Leadership is people. You lead people, not things. We lead people. So Barry talked extensively about bringing all these theories together. Matt has talked about that. He talked about Herzberg. So I'm gonna let Matt talk about his post this week. Was about Herzberg. His takeaway from that. So Matt, you'll share some of that with us this morning.
Yes, I think as we've gone through this course, I've become much more aware of my own thoughts as people, or how I view the leaders that are leading me, as well as those who I'm leading. And it has made me think, like Leslie, about a lot about the human capital. How am I? One of the things that you say a lot, Dr. Lamb, that has really stuck with me is, you know, my job is to make them successful. That's my job. That's what I do every day. And then I think about that with my leaders. Do they have that view of that their job is to help me be successful? And so it's just, with this being our first course and being introduced to a lot of these concepts, for me, because I haven't learned this kind of content in the past, and so it's very new to me. It is just really sort of opened my eyes and helped me to be much more aware of really about those those factors that lead to satisfaction for myself and also for those who I work with, and then also what are those components of dissatisfaction that I think sometimes concern me, cause me to be concerned about, you know, where things are going in the future, and how that might also be people that I lead. Do they have those, or am I looking at those really closely to make sure that those who I'm leading have much more of those areas of satisfaction than the areas of dissatisfaction? And so it has been really, really good. I can't wait to learn much more about all the other theorists, but it's been very eye-opening and brought a lot more awareness to where those are, and also that they can be across all organizations. It's not just in my organization, but how those theories can be applied in such across organizations. It's been really exciting to learn.
Thank you. Gary, are you with us this morning?
I am. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So Gary kind of summarized it into the notion of what we were supposed to learn this semester was how to be a transformational leader. Transformational leaders inspire and motivate. They're not transactional. They are transformational. That's where we've been headed, is to get us to understand what our goal is as a leader. And it is transformational leadership. That's our goal. All these others, build us to that, but that's the pinnacle. You don't start out as a transformational leader, unfortunately. You usually start out in a very transactional, very situational, but you have to graduate beyond that. You have to move beyond those lower levels of leadership. The highest level is being a transformational leader, as Gary pointed. Gary, you want to talk about that a while this morning?
Yeah, no problem. So one of the many things I learned from this semester was definitely building on my communication skills. And with that, I really enjoyed the group case study assignments that we had, not only working with Lonnie, Leslie, and Brenda, but also having the ability to listen to Matt's, Barry's, and Darius's presentation as well, and then coming together and have those conversations, because I feel like those conversations created the foundation of us learning about different perspectives, how different teams attack the case study, but also understanding that it's more than one way to skin a cat. And so, though there was really no right or wrong answer, as Dr. Lamb always said, but it was more so, how did we get to this conclusion? And I felt like those conversations empowered me to not only to look at the case studies differently outside of my grant management, higher ed cap, but more so, okay, let me think about it as in the human resources cap. Let me think about it as a teacher. Let me think about it as in like an on ground person looking at this case study. And so as I continue to wear these different caps, I learned that it's the communication in which helps us kind of balance everything out and communicate what we're thinking and how we're feeling about a certain thing. And I feel like all that relates back to transformational leadership, because in order for you to implement change, in order for you to empower people, you have to learn how to communicate. And without that basis, without that foundation of communication, you will never get to inspire anybody, because they'll never understand what you're trying to do or what's your motive behind it.
Exactly. You must be able to communicate. You must be able to inspire and motivate. Transformational leadership is where we're headed through all the steps that we've gone through. And as Gary wrote very succinctly, it's the difference between being a manager and being a leader. A lot of leadership theories basically teach you how to be managers, but the transformational, you got to put it all together. And so the final thing that I have this morning, Darius is with us, but he called me and said that he wouldn't be able to participate fully this morning, so I won't call on him. So I'm going to move to the last thing this morning. If you can see my screen, I don't know if I play this, you can hear it or not, but I've got two gentlemen singing a duet on here. and this is about, this is my final lesson for the semester, is about you as the leader, and your specific skills and competencies that you bring to the table. And so I want you to, if I can play this, if you can't hear the sound, let me know.
No sound.
No
No.
sound, Doc.
All right, I'll drop the link to this one. I can change my audio settings, but I won't this morning. So the two gentlemen on the screen were BJ Thomas and Kenny Rogers. Now, my point in providing this is, if we sit and we listen to this, there's no doubt in anybody's mind, none, if we listen to these two gentlemen sing this morning, that BJ Thomas is tremendously better singer than Kenny Rogers. Not even close. Not even close. Not just Dale's opinion. Not even close. One sings, BJ Thomas, great voice. Kenny Rogers, not so much. Which one of them became more successful? Kenny Rogers by a long shot. Why? Very simple. BJ Thomas was a drug and alcohol addict and was the baggage that he brought with him to work every day was more than people were willing to deal with. He had a renaissance. He went through 10 years of drug and alcohol abuse. He cleaned himself up and had a pretty good late career, but he never achieved the potential that his voice had because he had too much baggage. Kenny Rogers, on the other hand, was the consummate professional. Wasn't a great singer, but showed up, learned to be an entertainer. Everybody loved working with him, well revered in the industry. Everybody loved him. His personal behavior, showed up sober and clean clothes on time every day. BJ Thomas, not so much. And the last lesson in leadership I have for you is that you can know it all, you can have tremendous talent, but you have to prove it every day. You have to live it. Leadership is a lived position. It is a practitioner's position. You have to show up and do it. Talent alone won't get you by. That's the final lesson is that you got to get your house in order before you expect to get anybody else's in order. That's the thing. And that's the one part of leadership that I would be remiss if I didn't remind us as we exit our course this semester is your behavior, not your skill. Your dispositional behaviors will determine your future, your capacity, your success. Yes, you must know something when you get there, but how you treat people, how you conduct your business as a professional will determine your trajectory as a leader. Too many times we think, if I just learn this stuff, that will make me a great leader. It will not. Your personal behaviors, your soft skills, your dispositional behaviors will determine how far you go as a leader, not just simply your skill set or your knowledge base. It's how you operate as a professional every day. Do you show up every day? And can you be a person that's dependent upon to be where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be, doing the things that they're supposed to be doing? And that's the commitment that you have to make if you want to be a leader, is that you don't get to do some of the things, when we talk about leaders must be understand it's all about hard work and sacrifice. my last lesson for you is hard work is what we do. Sacrifice is the things that we don't do. And you have to be willing, you know, to not have that second drink, not go out, not be involved in all those other things that would be detrimental to you and detrimental to your leadership. You have to be able to give things up that other people do on a regular basis. You're setting yourself above and apart, and your behavior must be above reproach. And so, again, my exemplar this morning is these two folks. One's a great singer, one's not. One became highly successful, the other didn't. And it was simply because of their personal behavior, not their skill set. That was the example that I wanted to bring forward this morning. I appreciate you. I appreciate the semester. I hope that you got something, you've taken something away from this. The notion this semester was to introduce you to the theorists, to the leaderships, to build your toolbox of skills that you have, to get you prepared, to get you to understand the dissertation. We've talked about that extensively, to what we're and to transition you to a doctoral candidate rather than being. I mean, doctoral candidate is different. It's all about you. It's all about what you have learned. It's what you can do. It's about you. It's not about simply mastering a volume of work. It is about building you. That's what a doctoral program is about. The teaching style is different. It's different than anything that you've done before, and it's supposed to be. It's about you and about the work that you do. And so I appreciate everybody being with us this semester. I appreciate all of you. I thank you for choosing Gardner Webb. Without you, there is no Gardner Webb. Again, our vision is our own, but our mission requires that we have clients and customers. And we always need to maintain the focus. It needs to be on you folks, not on us folks. Gardner Webb is not a set of buildings. Gardner Webb in any organization is the people. It's that human capital. It's the client system. That's what's important. So thank you for all the well wishes during this holiday season. Let's remember our faith. The reason why we celebrate the holidays, whatever your faith is, remember that's what it's about. It's about family. It's about people. And if we'll keep that focus, you will become a great leader. If you aren't already, you will become a great leader if you'll remember the focus is on the people, not on the buildings. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share with the group this morning? Are we going to finish? Oh, yeah, we're going to finish on time this morning.
I have a question for you, Dr. Lamb.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The course you were supposed to take, well, the module, the 6-hour module, do we still have time to do that? Because I haven't done mine yet. It's like a module. I don't remember what it was.
CITI. There's
Yes.
16 of those. Just get started when you can.
Okay.
You won't need that until 7:38, but there's 16 modules. Whenever you just go to CITI IRB and do those modules.
Okay.
But it's good to have it as soon as you can get it, in how you treat data and how you work with confidentiality. If you've not done that before, it'll be new information. Matt does it every day because that's the nature of his work. FERPA laws and Family Privacy Act and all that. But yes, whenever you can get to that. But again, it's not required until you get to 7:38. But it's good information to have. It will help you. That's another skill in your tool test of skills that you need to have.
And I can access it on I can access it on Blackboard.
Yep, you can.
Okay. Okay.
Let me share my screen and let's go to that. Let me see. Well, Barry, I said you could. Let me see. Thought I put it in this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 731 shell. Let's see. There it is. Okay, I put that under dissertation handbook and materials in the 731 shell. And when you go there, you simply log in and you use your Gardner Webb email, and your affiliate university is Gardner Webb University. And you want to do the basic course. And here are the required modules right here. I think there's 17 of them, 16 or 17 of them. So that's one you want to do. Graduate School of Education, Research, Investigate. That's the one you want to do. And you simply use your Gardner Webb email to sign in, and you will get it. It will let you in, and you can go in and do it from there. There's the link. CITIRB, basic course, 16 modules. Takes about 6 hours total. You have to take a little quiz at the end of each module to go to the next one. And that's important that you get that done. I thought I had that in there, but I guess I didn't. But it's there.
On another note, thank you for everything, Dr. Lamb. It's been a pleasure.
It has been. Y'all have been a good group. Y'all are a good group. You'll do well. Anything else for the good of the group this morning? All right. We always try to get done on short Saturdays by 10:30. We made 6 minutes early today, so we did well. Thank you all. Have a good holiday. I'll see you again before long. Safe travels, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Merry
Thank you, Dr.
Christmas.
Lamb.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody. Take care.